Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am broadcasting on Sunday, the 18th of May in the year 2025 from beautiful, rainy Escazú, Costa Rica. And you can probably hear the rain behind me, and I apologize for that. I tried to start this podcast a little while ago, and then it was raining so much that it was so loud, so I didn't want it to distract and make me yell over the rain. So it's just a very lovely sprinkle in the background, like water falling, like when you turn on those sound effects of water falling to help you sleep or something. So think of that as I serenade you with my podcast. Oh, there is so much to say. So much to say. So, first of all, I did a lecture this morning for the internations.org group, and they're an expat organization. They're for people like myself who are living in a different country than where they were born. And I have a lovely woman named Laura Mass who works with me, and she lives in Munich. And she's like an ambassador in that organization. I believe that's what they call it. And she sets up these events. So we've been working together for a couple of years. It's great. And today, I gave a lecture on the transits and the cycles of the outer planets. And it went well, And I mean, I've done astrocartography. We actually did 2 astrocartographies so far this year because so many people are interested in it. Obviously, in an expat organization, they like that stuff. So I talked about the transits and the cycles that we're all going to be experiencing. And the last time we experienced these things, like the Saturn Neptune, the last time they got together was 1989, etc. So there were very little questions. And my friend Claudia was on, and she asked some questions, which I was grateful for. And one other person asked questions. But usually I am overwhelmed with questions, and we have to cut it short because I'm answering questions and people keep asking questions. And I found it interesting. And she said, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. She said, I think that people really like to know about their own horoscope, their own astrology chart, which of course, all of these things apply. Everything I discuss applies to your individual chart. So that's what you're supposed to be doing, looking at your chart and seeing where is that Saturn transit, where is the moon going this week, etc., etc. That was the point of giving the lecture. Maybe they just weren't in the mood to ask questions today. But it's funny, she said, I think that people really want to hear more about the inner planets, like Venus and Mars and stuff. And I said, yes, but the outer planets do all the work. And this is very true. This is about where the big transformations are going to come in your life. And so when I talk about the collective unconscious cycles, that's happening for all of us on Earth. And when people start walking around saying the world has gone mad and everything is crazy, this is the outer planet cycles, right? So there's a lot of intense activity with these, especially this year that we've been talking about, because so many changes at the same time. So it's really an interesting dynamic to watch people not ask questions like, maybe they didn't know their charts. They didn't say, hey, I'm Scorpio rising, and where is that Uranus and Gemini going to be for me? And, that kind of thing. Nobody said that. So I found it interesting. But like my host said, she thought that people really were interested in their own charts. And so a lot of people access their astrocartography and they say, oh, I have a line in Cuba and I don't know what that means, etc. But they also can access their astrological charts. So I thought it was interesting that considering this was a lot of deep information about where we're going and about how it happens and what it feels like to get a Pluto transit, and that there's nothing else going on when you have a Pluto transit. It's like the world ends, it's just Pluto. I thought it was interesting that people did not really ask questions. So on to the next. A little while ago, I stumbled upon the fact that ChatGPT has Astro ChatGPT. And I thought, well, that's weird. They have an astrology section. And so I did a search on the rest of the internet about what, Astro GPT is, and everything came up. There were like 5, 6, 7 websites directing me to an AI GPT for astrology. So, of course, I had to try it out, right? So, a lot of them were just daily, weekly, monthly astrology advice, which is what ChatGPT said they had. And I thought that was kind of funny. I guess that would be part of it. But, you can get that anywhere. You don't really need to pay for that. And some of these sites asked you to pay to get deeper information. But I thought it was weird because they gave a lot of, information just the way you would find it on the Vogue website, on any of the magazines that have an astrology column, any astrology website. So why would you go out of your way to get it from one of these things if you have a trusted astrology website that you like, or astrologer? So, I started to look a little more deeply. There was one site that asked me to enter my information, my birth information, and I did. And then it told me about my chart. And it said that I was an Aquarius, that my sun was in the 5th house with Leo rising, which I said, no, my sun is in in the New Jersey chart, it's in the 6th house. Here in Costa Rica, it's the 7th house. And I thought this was interesting that it was completely incorrect because Leo and Aquarius are opposite signs. It's the easiest thing in the world. If you're Leo rising and you're an Aquarius sun, it's going to be on the other side of the chart. It's not going to be in the 5th house. So then I looked a little more deeply at what it was telling me, and it was telling me that I have the moon in Aries in the 7th house. Well, no, I have the moon in Gemini in the 10th house. So here we are, completely, absolutely incorrect. I mean, it couldn't even get that information right. The moon was in Aries like 4 or 5 days before I was born. And then that means it was like 5 days before Capricorn. Then that person would be a Capricorn because I'm early Aquarius. So I said, oh God. And then it told me that I had the sun trine Mars, which I don't because I have the sun conjunct Mars. Both of them are in Aquarius. And I just said, ay caramba, this is wrong. So here I am, astrologer from the field, telling you all, please get a real astrology chart. Please don't go to these resources until you have our chart in your hand and you know what it is. Or go to a real astrologer like me or one of my wonderful colleagues, because you cannot afford to get wrong information about your astrological chart. They're telling me my moon is in Aries. Are you kidding? It's wrong. It's wrong. And so I know better. My astro darlings, you may not. If you don't have a copy of your astrological chart, before you embark on one of these journeys, please get a copy from a reliable source, like an astrologer or a service like Astrodienst. Astrodienst is very good for that. And you'll know where your planets are, because these services are not up to snuff yet. And maybe they will be someday, but they do not provide you with accurate information, and you're going to be walking around telling people your moon is in Aries when it's really in Gemini, and that's not good. Then you're going to go find books. Oh, I've got the moon in Aries. You don't. You have to get an accurate chart. These services, I don't know what they're doing, but they're misleading people. So please be careful. And as you've known probably all along with things like ChatGPT, they're not always correct. And you have to ask, it's sort of a shortcut to search something, like I tried that with astrology. It's a little more complicated. If you want, like, please sum up the story about the blah, 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 then it can probably do that. But when you ask real specifics, it really is not always correct. Like when Mars was going retrograde in Leo, I asked ChatGPT, when was the last time Mars went retrograde in Leo? And it must have given me the wrong answer 5 times. And I kept telling it was wrong. But it was not giving me the correct information. Of course, I just resorted to my ephemeris, my book. Remember books. I went to my book of planetary positions, and it then gave me the correct answer for when Mars had gone retrograde in Leo. which was a while ago. But I didn't even use my software because it was easier to flip through the pages of the ephemeris, right? So do be careful where you are sourcing your astrological information from. Listen to real astrologers. Go follow real astrologers on social media. Be aware of your own astrological chart. I think these machines are lovely if they can produce the correct information, but it has been many times that I've gotten incorrect astrological information from them. So I don't advise them so much for that, unless you want to say, hey, what does it mean to have the moon in Gemini? Then it will give you some information. That's a little more general. But specifics like this, like what's my astrological chart, it doesn't do it. So as my host said to me this morning, yeah, they want to know more about their own horoscopes. And if you're one of those people that wants to learn more about your own horoscope, please use a reliable source. Get an app that shows you your chart. Do something that is accurate for yourselves. So now, we've had an interesting day with the moon in Aquarius conjuncting Pluto. And this is really the first time that the moon has come into Aquarius since Pluto has gone retrograde. And boy, did I feel that. I definitely felt this moon-Pluto conjunction. It was pretty intense, and I got to do my lecture during that. But it was very interesting how emotions bubbled to the surface. Moon-Pluto type, deep, intense emotions bubbled to the surface. Of course, because I'm an Aquarius and Pluto's on my sun. But I did not feel that with all the passages of the moon to Pluto in these prior months. Maybe once in a while, but today it was particularly potent. And I think it has more to do with the retrograde and Pluto going deeper and under the surface than it would normally do when it's not retrograde. So if you were feeling that today, that's what it was, that moon Pluto, and it was really highly transformational, but that's what we want from Pluto anyways. So that is what we expect from Pluto. So it was something. And the moon is going to be in Aquarius for a couple days. But, conjuncting Pluto like that once a month is going to stir the pot of wherever the Pluto and Aquarius transit is for you in your chart. So that's something just to be aware of. These are the last few days of the sun in Taurus. We are ending Taurus season, and the sun will enter Gemini Tuesday afternoon. In Eastern time, it will be 2:55 p.m. that the sun enters Gemini on Tuesday, and we begin Gemini season, which is generally ruled by Mercury. So this is a whole new experience now because the sun is going to make contact to the planets in a different way. Now it's going to be in an air sign, and at the end of the week it will trine Pluto. We'll get more to that in a minute. And it's going to sextile Neptune, which is now in Aries. So now there's a different dynamic. We're going into an air season. We're going into a thought communication season ruled by the planet Mercury. And so we are in a place to start exploring more thoughts and ideas as the sun taps into new energies. The sun in Gemini is a nice flowing aspect to Neptune in Aries. When the sun conjunct Neptune, it was still in Pisces, and that was the last time in our lifetime that's going to happen, because the sun will be working with Neptune in Aries from now on. So this is a very interesting dynamic because the sun is in a nice smooth flowing aspect with Neptune, and then later in the week with Pluto. So this is good. This means we've got some very good conversations between our vitality life force and the outer planets, which bring transformation to us. So this is welcome. Okay, this is a welcome experience. But the other big aspect that's going to happen this week, I'm going to go straight cut to the chase, is that Saturn is entering Aries. And that is Saturday the 24th. It is pretty late at night on Saturday the 24th. It's at 11:35 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday night. Not for almost another week, but really it's going to be a big shift because it's a profound movement, as we already have Neptune in Aries and Saturn is now joining it. So they were close, conjunct, very close to each other in Pisces, and then Neptune moved ahead, and now Saturn is joining it. It's a conjunction. Even in the last degrees with Saturn in Pisces, it's a conjunction. But this is now a new sign, a new day, a new zodiac, because we're starting at the very beginning of the zodiac, again, 0 degrees Aries, and a brand new cycle for both Saturn and Neptune. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. And they are meeting, they are going to meet in the sign exactly next year, like between February and March. But I say conjunction. Now it's going to be conjunct. This is conjunction. Okay? If you have a baby and you look at their astrological chart, they have Saturn and Neptune conjunct. But this is the movement of Saturn out of the end of the zodiac, which is powerful and profound. It means that Saturn is now at that point of surrender, a great point of surrender and atonement and letting go and stepping into our power anew. So this week may feel a little heavy. It's Saturn in the last moments of the zodiac before it changes signs on Saturday night, late Saturday night. If you're in the Eastern time zone, it might be in the middle of the night for you if you're in Europe. The next day, if you're in Australia, for me it will be about 9:30 Saturday night. But this is a reckoning with our stuff. It's atonement. It is, places where we should be focusing on forgiveness of self and others, places where we should be working with releasing and letting go of old stuff. Okay, this is a great time to sit down and really do some deep work into peace, into relieving the burden that we've carried from the past, from any emotions or old patterns or thoughts or ideas that we have that no longer work for us. This is the end. Say goodbye to stuff. If you are carrying around old resentments, wow, is it good time to sit down and journal about that and let it go. Do a process. Release it. Clear it. There's lots of clearing techniques. You can come to me. I have plenty of clearing techniques that I can work with you on to get rid of these old dynamics and patterns and ideas and ideologies that we don't want to hold on to and bring into the new day. Now, yes, Saturn's going to come back to this place, but this is a great first step. Maybe you've got to let go of resentments and anger from old relationships. Maybe there's stuff still carried from your family, but these are great moments to let them go. Do the work. Let them go. Saturn is always about work. And release them. Release those people. Remember, we forgive for us, not for them. There's no space for new stuff and new people and new experiences and opportunities if we are carrying around the burdens of the past, if we're carrying around the resentments of many years ago. It's not going to allow us to move forward in our own lives. We have to forgive people who didn't know any better, and most of the time they didn't. So we have to allow them their path and their journey and their soul contract and move on with ours. So people say, I'll never forgive him for that. I'll never forgive her for that. My mother, my father, my ex-boyfriend, my ex, whoever. You don't want to forgive them. You don't create space for something new to take place of that, something good. So not everybody knows better. We want to think that they do, but they don't. So please, for your own emotional well-being and health, sit down, do a little ritual, say goodbye, write it down, write it all out, burn it in a candle, burn it someplace, burn it in your garden barbecue, just safely, of course, and rip it up, throw it away, get rid of it so that it's not with you anymore. Clear your space with Palo Santo, with sage. Do some big, deep cleansing as you could after something big has been released. This is a great week to cleanse, to let go, to just move forward, okay? So that's the big transit of the week. Saturn is entering Aries on Saturday the 24th. Aries is the warrior sign. Aries is ruled by Mars. Saturn going into Aries, mess. Saturn doesn't love Aries because it likes Libra. It's all about justice and fairness, and karma. And Saturn's not at its best in Aries. So the sun is at its best in Aries. It's exalted in Aries. And as my teacher once said to me many, many years ago, that's where the sun is exalted. Saturn doesn't belong there. So he had some ancient astrology lessons clearly in his history. And like how Saturn was sort of that reasoning that's why Saturn's called the devil, or the devil of the zodiac, or Liz Green's book, Saturn, A New Look at an Old Devil. It's the reasoning of why you shouldn't do something, why that might not be a good idea. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to grow and change? Why would you want to evolve? Yeah, that's sometimes Saturn's narrative. Saturn's not like, get up, go, make it happen. That's Mars. That's Mars. And Uranus too, and Jupiter. Go out there, make it happen. Saturn's like, you better deal with this. So, when we're dealing with Saturn's energy, it's not bright and sunny. And that's why Saturn doesn't belong in Aries. Aries is a brighter energy. This is going to be very interesting. 2.5 years to 3 years in Aries. We've been there before. If you were around in like 1996, 1997, you might want to go back into your journals or, remembering what was going on about that. And I always ask that of people when they come to see me for a session. I always say, hey, so what went on back then? So we're having another cycle of that now. Now, it's not always the same. There's some themes that are the same, but not really the same. It will transit the same house that it did back then. So just remember that. So where was that for you? What were you doing in 1996, 97, a bit of 98? Where was it happening for you? So that's the big transit. In addition, other things are happening. Mercury is going to be conjunct Uranus at the very end of Taurus on Saturday the 24th, the day that Saturn goes into Aries. And it is going to be very, very close to leaving its sign of Taurus, and it's going to zip through there because by the next day at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday the 25th, Mercury will be finished with Uranus, and it will be going into Gemini, its own favorite sign. So that's good. That's helping us. Mercury and Saturn are going to make a sextile shortly after that, 45 minutes later, with Saturn being in Aries and Mercury being in its own sign of Gemini. This is something that's good and supportive of new ideas. And that Mercury is in its own sign, it's a good energy. Mercury will definitely be the more powerful point in that aspect. So that's something we want to stay aware of with that Saturn. And Mercury with Uranus, which brings big explosions of fireworks ideas, like, wow, I've got a great idea. New information, information that helps us along, information that, brings about an epiphany. So this is all good. And then there's other things. We've got Venus in Aries trining Mars in Leo on Thursday, the 22nd. Fantastic. This is great for relationships. It's great for socializing. Venus doesn't love Aries the way Saturn doesn't love Aries, but, trining Mars in Leo, Mars likes Leo. This is good for the polarities, the balance of the polarities in our own being, the balance of the polarities of the masculine and the feminine, not male and female so much as masculine and feminine. This is where we get to, step forward, make an offer, initiate something, but then, step back and wait for the response or maybe get an invitation to something. It's good. It's a very good place for Venus and Mars to be talking to each other very sweetly. That will be 3:42 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday the 22nd. Of course, we always feel these things in advance, a little bit before, a little bit after. So that's important. Then we've got that Sun sextile Neptune that I mentioned earlier from Gemini to Aries at 8:40 a.m. And that's a smooth lovely recognition of creative impulses, imagination, vision. Then the sun in Gemini is making that trine to Pluto on Saturday the 24th, which is the same day that we have Saturn going to Aries and Mercury conjuncting Uranus at the end of Taurus. So this is a Saturday the 24th is a bright day for lots of energy and profound shifts. So we're going to be leading up to this as we move through this week. And so also we're going to be having a new moon a week from tomorrow. That's more for next week's podcast, but that's going to be the new moon of Gemini season. It's 6 degrees Gemini. So Mercury will be ruling that new moon. It will have gone into its own sign the night before, and it's great because that's a lot of support for this new moon in Gemini, which is going to really encourage a lot of new ideas, revelations, things that we need to mull over, discuss, talk about. So it's a good time for discussions and deeper conversations as that sun in Gemini connects with Neptune and then connects with Pluto. We're asked to go deeper in our ideals, ideas, and also with others when we're having a discussion. If you need to hash something out with someone, these are smooth aspects. They're not hard aspects. They're not like, oh my God, I didn't know this relationship was going in that direction. This is, okay, let's have a conversation. Are we both on the same page? Do we want this to go in the direction that I think we want it to go in? Are we both going there? You can have this conversation with your boss at work. You can have this conversation with your children, anybody, your partner, anyone. And so this is important to, see the dialogue available to us this week, and that there's a lot of smoothness happening with Venus and Mars in trine, and, the sun trining Pluto and sextiling Neptune, and then, that Mercury Uranus. That is the only one that's a little hot, and that you might talk before you think. That one asks us to think before we talk. Okay, so be aware of that. Do think things through. It is an optimal week for thinking things through. It is an optimal week for conversation. Don't shy away from conversation. It's important to speak up. Speak your mind, speak your heart. And the sun sextile Neptune really lets you speak your heart. Don't speak the 1,000 ideas in your brain before you've spoken your heart. Okay? That Mercury, Uranus. Be cautious and careful about your words. Whenever we're in Gemini, we could just go blah, 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 blah. Speak like a zillion things a mile a minute and not have really processed the information. So we look to processing the information. We look to real connection with people through dialogue, through communication. It's important. Gemini is often the frivolity that we find in our world, gossip magazines, gossipy things on the internet, stuff like that. We want to avoid that stuff. That's the lower use of Gemini. The lower use of Gemini, okay? We want to elevate our thoughts while we are in Gemini season, okay? So I bless you this week. If you like to have a session with me, please contact me through my website, or you can write to me. You can write to me, deb@debmcbride.com, info@thegoldenastrologer.com, and you can already just book a session at thegoldenastrologer.com and go to book online. And my system is so easy to book a session. You just choose your date on the calendar, and if it's not blocked, like someone else has already got the session, or I have blocked it off for meetings, then I really invite you to really take advantage of how easy it is to just, book your session, pay for it, and you're all done. And then you get your Zoom link in your communication from my website that says, congratulations, you've booked a session. That's a confirmation. Then your Zoom link is right in there, and that's how we meet. So if you're in Costa Rica, I welcome you to meet me in person. I also do 5D Lemurian Reiki, which is wonderful, and it's wonderfully healing and soothing, and just a great, great thing to experience. And I can clear beliefs and clear energies and clear up situations with that Reiki. So I love it. I use it all the time. And I also am available for expansion mentoring, which is 3 months or 6 months or 12 months of working with me through all the techniques and all my tools, my new vision system, my Reiki, my astrology, and also most especially my quantum integration coaching work, because that's the basis of what my expansion mentoring is about. So I invite you to join me there. And if you're interested, just let me know. You can book 3 months on my website, but if you're interested in longer term work, just write to me and we'll talk about it. I am on Instagram, Golden Astrologer, so you can see me there. And I am happy to work with you on anything that you're going through right now. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you, assist you in any way I can. So thank you for listening. Thank you for all your support in joining me on this podcast every week and on Instagram. Many blessings to you. Gratitude to each and every one of you. The next time I see you, the next time you hear me on this podcast, Saturn will be in Aries. It's going to be a new world, a new era. Thank you for listening. See you on the internet.